It's time again for another installment of The Basics, and even though this show is technically still on hiatus until the fall, I will take time out to film episodes that deal with answering questions from you, my viewers. And today's question is in regards to Magic the Gathering, and the question is, how much mana should you have in your collection overall? So I'm going to try to answer this for you right now. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to answer this question quickly and film this episode is because it's a very interesting question. Whereas I've said in percentages regarding decks of 30 to 35% mana depending on the color, there's really no limit to how much mana you should have in your whole collection. But that being said, just in my own personal collection of Magic the Gathering, and I'm talking not just the 5 basic colors of mana, but also the colorless. This is my mana box. You've probably seen it on other episodes lurking in the background, but it actually gets featured today. In this box alone, I have about 500 cards that are land, which is mana, and that's including the 5 you see out on the table right now. Every color plus the colorless that have their own little section at the very back. This is, as I said, about 500, and when you calculate all the mana that's spread out in about 6 or 7 decks I have made up, so I would have to say in total I might have around 700 cards that are all land, or in this case mana. So that's out of a collection, I believe that would be, I think I have about 3,500 Magic cards if I factor in all 3 boxes plus some smaller packages and a couple extras. I'm somewhere in that area. I want to say between 3,000 and 3,500. Now, I've also known people in the past that I used to play Magic with that actually had more mana than everything else. So whereas I guess you could say that maybe 20% of my collection is mana, maybe, possibly more, I want to say that a couple friends that I used to play with would have maybe 50% or more of their collections were mana, because they were more focused on making sure they had mana to build decks. And in the early days that was hard, because you've heard me say on other episodes that the initial sets of Magic the Gathering, 1st edition up to 5th edition, were starved for mana. It was hard to get a lot of mana put together. It did improve after that, especially closer to 10th edition, but it was hard at the beginning. So in some cases, you would trade really good cards to get yourself a handful of mana because you needed the mana more than that good card. I know I'm getting a little off topic, but at the same time, it's because of things like that why certain players have certain amounts of mana in their entire collection. I collected a lot of my mana later when I started my 2nd collection of Magic the Gathering, which all these cards are, because I got rid of my first set a few years after I started Magic, only to get back in it many years later, and I started grabbing lots of mana off eBay for super cheap. You've noticed maybe in some of my episodes you've seen that a lot of my mana has either Chinese or Japanese symbols, because I bought lots of 100 or 200 Chinese or Japanese mana because it has the symbol and it has the cost. I don't care what language it is as long as it's mana, and I got them for super cheap. But yeah, so basically there is no limit on the amount of mana you should have in your set. The more the merrier in this case, I would think. That being said, I would also like to parlay this advice. If you are going to bolster the mana in your set and look for more land cards, do yourself a favor. In this case, eBay is the best way to go. You can get huge lots of mana for cheap and cheap shipping. Don't trade or get lots off of guys selling them at conventions or magic shows. A lot of those guys are assholes that jack up the price when they notice that you're a collector or a player. Oh, you want that much mana? I can sell you this much, but you're going to have to pay this dollar amount, but if you pay me even more, I'll throw in a few extra plus some commons. I hate that. What are we, bartering now? Are we going back a few thousand years in time? Don't do that. But get as much mana as you can. Have a great day, everybody.